I mean, and like a big part of our writing process is we like to write, whether it be from our perspective or from nobody's perspective. Like you can write about anything. You don't have to go through it, you know?
For sure.
As long as you're not like lying, like some people are. They really talk about things they really have no idea about. But it's like, it's different when you try to be a character, you know, when you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and write from their perspective. You know, I've like written a song from the perspective of somebody I hurt, you know, mentally. Right. So then I saw it from a whole different point of view, and I was like, oh, like I saw how my actions actually were perceived in somebody else's mind, even though that's not really what it is, because that's not possible. But I did it in my own way, you know.
That's pretty cool. To be able to do that, to put yourself out there from
like
the other perspective.
Yeah.
So when you're performing the music, do you go back to the emotional place of writing it?
No.
What happens?
Which is what I gotta work on.
Why'd you say that?
I've heard I look pretty dry on stage.
Oh my God.
I do.
To this day, like when you first bring up music, I'm like, I'm a mood guy. It's like, you know how I feel about what I got to go listen to. Like,
yeah.
To this day, if I'm going through something in life, I'll grab a joint, go hop in the pickup truck and tell my wife I'll be back. And she knows what I'm doing. I'm just going to go listen to music for an hour and smoke a joint, and I'm going to come back and sort through this shit. But it was something about that made me want to write songs for purpose.
Let's talk a little bit about your songwriting. I really like what you do because it's personal and it's well structured to the point of being poetic. Tell me about what inspires your songwriting and how long you've been songwriting, writing your own songs.
Mm-hmm. I actually wrote my first, it was a rap, actually. I was like 5 years old, and I wasn't writing yet. And I sat down with my mom and just told her like what I wanted to say, and she wrote it out for me. It was like a 8-bar rap. I'm not gonna do it right now.
You know I was about to ask you about that rap.
I mean, you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, this is exactly how it went. It's the J, the really funky one. I could wrap you up in every single way. Can I play? Yes, I can. You can see me like every single day. Come on, don't you want to play? If you be like me, you a G. And I made her write the part at the end too. So anyway, that was my first rap at 5 years old.
Old tight gigs with his nan's coat. His coat was that light blue coat with a cream fur around the edge. Nah, man, that coat was alright. Anyway, gigs. Stop wearing your nan's coat. AU. Gigs for next Doctor Who. That jacket. Fuck you, know. People really onto your jacket, G. Gigs for Doctor Who. That's a hashtag, innit? Hashtag gigs for Doctor Who. Yeah, I think he'll be a sick doctor or a pharmacist.
Well, I named the painting Mama Goes to Market, yeah. And it is literally that. It's a woman with a baby on her back, kind of reminds me of my mum. And then I have a lady on the right, she's like the sales lady. She's dealing with the transactions, and I have like a lady in the back. She's actually like rationing some rice into a bowl. It's even crazy now when I'm describing it, yeah. I sound like you know what I mean? But I had an idea of what I wanted to see, but I didn't. I definitely had in my mind that it could change. That maybe I wouldn't want it to be about this market thing, or maybe, you know what I mean? Like, but it actually ended up being what I wanted it to be.
I was in the studio, like, we were just getting high and coming up with shit.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was so much fun. It's probably the most fun I've ever had writing an album, because it's the first time I've sat down in a long time and wrote an album, instead of just writing a bunch of songs and then picking an album. You know what I mean? I was like, no, I'm writing. Like, we're going to sit down and write an album.
So that just came out of the blue, inspirationally?
Yeah, I just wasn't.
Just felt like something to do?
Man, I'm going to get like all the way real. I didn't understand I had commercial success for the first time in my life. And I didn't know how to deal with that. So you do what everybody does in that moment. I'm sure you may or may not have been there in your career early, where you chase it then. You're like, oh my God, hold on, I can be.
Yeah.
And I realized that the songs wasn't sounding like Jelly Roll no more.
Oh.
You know? And I was like, no, I'm doing the thing that people do where they fuck their career up. I was like, I'm not doing that, man.
I can't think of any other industry, probably with the exception of the movie industry, where, you know, it's a human business. You're actually not selling bits of plastic, or you're not selling digital downloads. You're actually, you know, trying to sell an artist and a human being. I can get incredibly passionate about all sorts of music because I enjoy the process of it. I don't care whether it happens to be the pop of One Direction or the rock of Kings of Leon. I can get incredibly passionate about the creative process involved in it and the journey that the artist goes on. Very few artists are motivated by fame and money. In fact, those artists that you generally tend to disappear. Most artists are motivated by creativity, and I like being around those kind of people.
Giggs always sounds like he records his vocals quietly in the bedroom so no one outside can hear it. I used to do that at Mikey J's when his studio was in his mum's house in Ilford Lane. Like his mum would be sleeping or whatever, and we'll be in his bedroom. So sometimes when I listen back to my old recordings, I can hear me like not trying to project my voice too much. But once we brought Demon round, and he can't do that. And Demon's like, you don't want to bring Arms House? I'll bring Arms House to your mum. Like, fucking all that shit. His mum woke up and weren't too happy about the noise or the swearing. Old type Mikey's mum though, Mumsy.
Something changed in her when the record went on, is how I looked at it. I didn't know anything about drug addiction, anything about schizophrenia or bipolar or any of this stuff she was dealing with, or manic depression back then, what they called. I didn't know any of this. I just knew that this lady never fucking leaves that room, and when she does, it seems like the music does it. So I spent my whole life writing songs for her, right? I was like, I kind of indirectly was like writing these songs for the addicted and the broken. You know what I mean? Because that's what I was seeing.
Yeah.
So it's like I found purpose in the music. And like I tell people, if I was going to do it for money, like any sane fucking comedian or musician, I'd have quit 10 years ago. Because fuck, I didn't make any for 15 years. You know, if I was doing it for money, I'd have quit forever ago and went and got a job. I just knew that it was always helping people. You know what I mean? It's like the music was all, because I seen how it helped my mother. And I knew the power of music.
Jay Hennessy is like who I become when I sip a little bit of Hennessy, and I feel like freestyling. And I never really take it like super, super serious. Like, oh, I'm about to spit these bars right now. Like, but sometimes they end up being really good. But it's like, it's still like a joke to me. But that's maybe my more aggressive side, Jay Hennessy. She's still laid back though. Aiko is my,
peaceful zen
is my
side.
peaceful zen side.
Yeah.
Ifuru, which is my second middle name. It's an African middle name.
Yeah, is that like West African, like Nigerian maybe?
I think it might be Nigerian.
Interesting, okay.
And she has another person. It's a lot. It's a lot of them. But yeah, they're all me.
I would say I've been an artist all my life. I've always been intrigued in, how things are put together, why things are so, classic, why things live through generations, as well as the fact that always, having African art in my house was like, I feel like it shaped me, like the wooden spoon, the pictures of like all the people dancing I had on my wall when I was younger,
Make yourself be heard and be noticed. Don't keep your head down. I mean, the great thing about a music industry, it's a very flat organisation. So, I may be chairman and CEO, but that's not to say that I know everybody in this company, and the most junior entry-level member of staff can come to me with an act, can come to me with an idea. I'm absolutely fine with it. I mean, encourage that actually. And that's the great thing about it. So if you're smart and you've got a great idea, you will be heard.
So where did the music come in? Because if you're this kind of person, I'm assuming that you must have found it very difficult to tell people that you sing, one, and that you make music, to then play your music to people. That's the highest level of anxiety I can imagine, is to play it to someone. Was there someone that told you like, this is not something that you should just be doing quietly, like this is something that people need to hear?
I don't really remember, to be quite honest.
Yeah. I like this, there's like a juxtaposition to you. I like that you're very sort of like to yourself, but at the same time, you clearly have a lot of confidence in what you do.
So you think that that's just a normal trap that happens to everybody that gets success, and they don't want to fuck up that success, so they try to make a formula for what they think the people liked about their early shit?
Yes. 100%. Or they chase whatever the poppy record was, or whatever the record that did the most. So it's like, how do I write another song like that? So I was coming off of a hit that the one I gave you the plaque for, Son of a Sinner, was my first radio hit, like hit. And I was like, I didn't know how to come out of it because I didn't write the song for radio. I wrote the song like I wrote every other song. But then you start thinking, oh, I can write songs for radio. And then I had fucking 70 radio songs. Like, fuck, I'm not, it's like, no, man, I need to do what got me to radio. I need to do what Jelly Roll does. And I was like, I know what it is. I'm going to get back in my foxhole and write me a fucking album, dude. You know what I'm saying?
That's beautiful.
I took it off Music Row. We went back to some little old back-ass studio in the backwoods, and we wrote it kind of like, like we wrote all my early shit.
I always wanted to do music. So I started piano lessons and finally clarinet lessons at around 8 or 9 years old. And I grew up in quite a musical household. And it's just something which I loved and had a passion for. And from a very early age, that's where I'm going to go. I remember saying to the careers advisor that I wanted to be in music, and they just looked at me like I was mad. And I suppose the big lesson from school there is that you just keep following the path. If you're passionate about it, and I was very single-minded, I was going to do that.
In my music, I always like to have lyrics that are open for interpretation, or that can mean 2 or 3 things.
Let's talk about your music. What song are you most proud of right now, Summer? What's your song that when you hear it, you're like, I'm glad I made that tune?
I don't listen to the music after it comes out. I know a lot of people don't, but...
You don't listen to your own songs? So you only hear them when you're performing them?
Yeah. Like, after I make it, I don't want to hear it no more.
So your music's like a diary that you never read ever again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you just gotta get it out.
So the moment that you're making it must be, does it get emotional?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've cried in the studio and shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is nice.
That's so interesting.
I said, dude, I want to write an album called Going to Church. And I just kind of want to write this kind of journey and just kind of A to Z it and write a real project. And Zach was like, I'm in. He's like, well, why don't you just call it Wits at Chapel? So that's how we ended up doing Wits at Chapel. So when Need a Favor came into the fold, I was like, what's worship music for sinners sound like? Like, what does a motherfucker like me? Because when you're in church, it's holy, holy, you are great. I was like, I don't necessarily feel that way. So how do I feel? You know what I mean? And then it was like, only talk to God when I need a favor. And I was like, we got to build it with a choir and big production. I want that old stomp, clap, that old church feel. And I want to bring like that vibe of that church, into the, and the whole thing is the whole album is built on that vibe of like, there's fire and brimstone. There's everything you go through in a Sunday morning worship service. If you've ever been to a Sunday in the South worship service, you're going to convince you're a horrible human at some point. You're going to hell. And then at the end, they'll hit a major key instead of a minor one finally and go, but there's hope. You know what I'm saying? So I was like...
Is there anything that you don't get to express in your music, though? Maybe because of the style of music that you make? Are there topics that you never touch on?
No, I say everything I gotta say.
Yeah.
I think that's like really like my music is my friend. I get to like confide in because I don't talk to nobody anyway. So just lay it out.
I feel like it's like every level of success that you get, you're presented with a unique problem that you haven't seen before. And it's up to you to just figure it out. Just figure it out. What are you doing this for? And I think that applies to everything. I know it applies to comedy. It definitely seems to apply to music. I think it probably applies to everything. Figure out what you're doing it for. Like, why do you like to do? I know you have to make a living, but once all that's taken care of, like, what are you doing it for? You should be doing it for the love of this thing. Whatever this thing is that you do, you are a love-spreading machine as a human being.
Right.
Whether it's your love of carpentry, whether it's your love of electronics, what is it? What's your thing, man?
Right.
Everybody's got a thing, but not everybody finds their fucking thing. That's the problem with this world. So people get trapped in something that's not their thing, and that's what they are now. And they don't ever get to express themselves in a way that would make them feel good.
So now, I pretty much just combine 2 of my passions, singing and writing. And a lot of the times, it'll start off as like either like a diary entry or a poem. And now that this is my job, I have everything that I write just turns into a song.
If I was 21 years old right now and I talked to my younger self, I'd say the best thing you could possibly do is try and find some funding, small. You're talking about a couple of £1,000s. I know that's maybe tough for some people to pull together, but start your business yourself. Become an entrepreneur in the music space. I'm interested in people, who are entrepreneurial, who are out there doing this stuff, seeing talent, just starting the business without being paid a salary by me. And then I'm also interested in people who do have some experience in the creative industries at entry level and just say, this is something which I feel strongly about, and now I can apply something that what I've learned into your space.
I had wrote like 100 songs last year, and I didn't feel great about any of them, to be honest. The label liked a few and was trying to pick radio singles, but I just didn't have no conviction about it, Joe. And my daughter at the same time had found her way into this little back road church in the middle of nowhere, about a country where we live. She kept asking me to come, and, you know, I have a tumultuous relationship with the Lord, so I wasn't, you know, sure how I'd show up, but I was like, you know what, I'll go. And I went, dude, there's 100 people, a back road church, you know, 20 of them were kids that went to high school with her. And around the same time, I caught this little motherfucker smoking pot, right? She's 15, she's doing 15-year-old kid stuff, and I was like, Betty, you won't believe it. About your age, I started making these same decisions, and I was going to this little bitty church in Antioch. I tell her the story of this church. She don't believe it. So I take her to this old church. It's still there. It's called Whitsitt Chapel Baptist Church. And that night, riding home with her, I didn't tell nobody, but in my mind, I thought, that's the album I'm writing. Like, fuck every song I wrote, I'm writing this album.
Kids who've grown up in the digital world are invaluable to me. You know, kids who've grown up on social media, because it's such an important part of the way that we market music now. 90% of our focus is marketing direct to music fans now. And the classic example of that is, you know, I can look on the pop scene. You know, One Direction absolutely broke through social media because radio didn't particularly embrace it. It was social media. You know, we've just had a top 5 album in the States with Little Mix. No radio at all, entirely through social media. Traditional media now is about, it's what I call is about pull marketing. You want them to start pulling as opposed to you pushing. And digital experience and people who really understand how to communicate through social media and understand the way that works is massively important now.
I feel like when you make music, because it comes with music videos, it comes with outfits, it comes with styling, it comes with set design. I think just getting into art in different styles and formats of art is something that I come across, you know, I recognize it. I'm always excited to tackle it no matter what it is.
Randomly writing and trying to get in and applying for entry-level jobs, of course you've got to go through that process. I mean, and, you know, my view is particularly for an entry level, it doesn't matter what the job is. You know, you may want to be an A&R person, but just come in at the sales level. Or you might want to be a marketing person, just get inside the building.
Well, for me, I always call it the why. And it's like what you said, even with the music. And that's what happened with those 70s songs. When the why comes down to, oh, this is catchy, or this is a good song, I'm past the point of like, I want to help people, Joe. Like, my music has always been therapeutic. My music has always been for people. What got me into music was my mother. So my mother was a woman who struggled with extreme mental health issues and drug addiction. And she would never come out of her room, Joe. And she would come downstairs and she'd throw a record on and she'd light a cigarette at the table. And dude, I would watch the house change. Like brothers, sisters, cousins coming from across the street. We live in a little tight neighborhood, poor people, you know? Neighbors coming over. Her friends start flooding the house. And she held court. Joe, I would watch our kitchen turn into a nightclub. And she'd start telling stories. And listen, we didn't have Google. We had to believe the bitch back then. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying?
When I came out of university, I came out there to join a band, basically. Because as you imagine, my parents were thrilled at that prospect. And at that time, it wasn't a particularly successful band. I was then lucky enough to be in a successful band and had all that experience in there. And I had a realization, and I suppose it's a very important part of where my career went, was that, you know, most people in bands and most musicians, professional musicians, you know, unless you're absolutely right at the top of your field and you're a global artist, there is a life cycle of that. You know, you have a shelf life. And I was lucky enough at a fairly early age to go, you know what, this is not going to be forever. And that's when I decided to go into the business side of things, away from the performing side of things.
Was one of the first songs you wrote after watching The Walking Dead?
It was one of the ones I was just talking about, the horrible ones that we recorded before Ocean Eyes. Yep, yep. When I was 12, my mom was teaching me how to write songs, and she had this little like songwriting class, and I was in it, and the kind of like the assignment, I guess, was to watch a TV show or a movie and write down things in it that you thought would sound like a good like hook for a song or good lyrics. So I just watched like 8 seasons of The Walking Dead and I just wrote down a bunch of stuff, and I wrote a song called Fingers Crossed about the zombie apocalypse. But nobody actually knows that's what it's about except when I tell them. Right. Because it sounds more like a longing, unrequited love. You know, it sounds like a dying love, but it's really about zombies and shit.
That's crazy.
Is there anything about music so far in where you are that you would change about your journey?
Nothing.
Yeah.
I don't believe in regret.
Good.
You gotta learn what you gotta learn along the way.
When was the first moment that it got, I don't want to say serious, but it became real? When did you realize, like, this is happening?
When they made me get on stage
Where were you?
in Paris.
Oh, okay, cool. And then what happened? Were you nervous?
No, that's it. I don't get it. It's so weird. Man, when I get on stage, I don't be nervous at all. It don't make no sense. I'll be scared as hell all day. Then when I get on it, just be like, all right, well, I'm here, so.
You're totally cool on
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, except for when I have to talk. I don't like talking.
Then don't. You know, Kendrick doesn't talk between any of his tunes. Oh, I'm sorry, Summer. I'm sorry.
There are a number of paths to get into the music industry. I mean, there are probably the more traditional sense through finance and through business affairs routes, but obviously that involves, you need a law degree, you need financial qualifications to be in those areas. The creative roles in the business are the hardest ones to get into, obviously, because there's no natural path in there. Clearly, you write to HR. And I think it's very important to find out who are the key executives in the company that you are targeting. Who are the artists who are signed to that company? You can find all this information out. It's very interesting. I get an awful lot of inquiries come through, sent direct to me. And the vast majority I will pass to my HR department, and some of them with my recommendations and some where I don't recommend. The ones I don't recommend, where you clearly someone's hasn't thought to what my name is, B, which artist, why you want to be part of this company. So it's really trying to find out the people who are really passionate and committed.